Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Karasik from Jewish Federation. I see a couple of familiar faces. It's nice to see you back. And thank you again to Kerri Weiss from Ocean Waves Wellness for being our resident expert in coping with COVID stress. And Kerri, as this is our final session in the three-part series, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and everybody at Federations for your generous contribution of your expertise, your caring, your time, and what a beautiful example of community coming together and doing for one another. And you're an inspiration, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to the Federation for inviting me to be a part of the series, and thank you to all of us for joining us. I'm glad my video is working so I could see the familiar faces this week, but thank you for bearing with my technical difficulties last time. It's been great to be a part of this series and to be a part of coming together as a community, as Lisa was just saying, and that's the most important thing we can be doing right now in coping with the stress that we're all feeling. So I thought I'd start out by kind of recapping a little bit of some of the major themes that we've been talking about. And then I have a new guided imagery to share at the end. So we'll kind of end in our familiar way that it seems that many of you have been enjoying each week that we've been together. So in recapping the themes, I printed out a few of my favorite memes that I've been coming across in social media that might help us to go over the things that we've been talking about. So hopefully you could see these. I'm not sure of the visual if I hold it up close. I'm not sure on that one. So it says, just a friendly reminder, there is no right way to feel right now. And I love this one because it's exactly what we've been talking about, that we may be feeling so many different things and everything's normal. And it's also okay to be feeling a mix of different things. This is just such an unprecedented time. We don't have a roadmap. We don't know what to expect. We're dealing with all of those feelings of being out of control and uncertainty and being bombarded with press conferences and news reports and media messages, and it's a lot to take in. And we still don't have the answers that we all want of when is this coming to an end and are we going to be okay? And are our loved ones or ourselves going to be directly affected? So there's so much uncertainty that we're still struggling with. So important to keep reminding yourself that whatever it is that you are feeling is just normal under these very abnormal circumstances. Another one of my favorites, again, can you guys see that if I hold it up? So this kind of says yes and I'll summarize it for those if you can't see it. Maybe I can hold it a little bit. It says yes, and it goes through a bunch of different things. So the idea is reinforcing that message that we've been talking about, that you may be feeling lots of different things, and the things that you're feeling may actually be conflicted feelings. You might be feeling grateful, but also feeling really overwhelmed and disappointed and grieving the losses that you're feeling. You might be enjoying some of the time to slow down. A lot of people I'm talking to are really trying to focus on the positive in this. What's the silver lining? And they may be enjoying the time to slow down, tune into themselves, take a break, enjoy some quiet time with immediate family if you're living with people you're enjoying spending that time with. But at the same time, as much as you may enjoy some of that slowdown, you may be really overwhelmed. It can be overwhelming to be in enclosed spaces with the same people every day and not being able to see other friends and loved ones or go to other activities. You may be feeling hopeful about things, but also feel really scared that things are falling like apart and you're feeling uncertain and worried about what's to come. So these conflicting emotions are just so common right now. I think the affirmation one may be a little bit harder to see, but I'm gonna try. This again is such a great example of things that we could be saying to ourselves. Right now, we tend to be very judgmental of ourselves, and I've heard so many shaming comments from people about what they think they should be doing right now. So I think this idea that we need to be kind to ourselves and show ourselves compassion is essential during these times. Instead of judging, I should be more productive, I should be getting things done, How many times, I'm sure you've heard, I keep hearing like, I'm gonna get all my closets done. I should clean my closets. I should clean my garage. I should get everything organized in my house or catch up on this paperwork. And then this feeling of, I just wanna sit down. I just wanna lie on the couch. Or I find myself sitting there and staring out the window and I can't get anything done. And we forget that we're using so much mental energy right now in just managing everything that we're going through. So you may feel like you're sitting around doing nothing, but your brain's in overdrive. We're thinking, we're worrying, we're questioning, and that requires a lot of energy. So these are great things to just remind yourself of, and even add your own affirmations to the list, but being kind to yourself. You're allowed to rest right now. It's so important to have that self-care, to take care of yourself and rest. You don't have to define your worthiness by how productive you are. You're worthy for being you, and you deserve time to take care of yourself. Your feelings are real and valid, whatever they are. You're doing enough, whatever it takes to get through the day. I keep reminding you, your main goal right now is to stay physically safe and healthy and emotionally safe and healthy. Whatever you can do to try to achieve those goals is what you're doing, and that's enough. You're allowed to take a break from the news. In fact, I advise you to take a break from the news, shut it off, tune in only once or twice a day to get the updates that you need, and really take a break and slow down. You deserve to be cared for. You're allowed to be afraid. And it's important to spend extra time on yourself. One of the questions had come up, I think, in our first meeting about, is it okay to take care of myself? I feel such a need, or it's always expected of me to take care of everybody else. But the whole idea that you have to put your oxygen mask on first, you have to give yourself the self-care that you need. And if that means spending a little extra time on yourself so that you can also be there for others, that's really, really important. Another thing is humor. It's so important. So this one is just about using humor, which is a great strategy when you're feeling anxious or stressed. I'm just going to share two of my favorites. This one says, reminder, 9 p.m. is the time to remove your daytime pajamas and put on your nighttime pajamas. So I think that's a classic of what we're all feeling and staying in those comfy clothes. And this one is just anyone else's car getting 3 weeks to the gallon at the moment. So I just thought that one was funny, as we're probably not getting very far with these stay-at-home rules. So using humor, though, is so important. We can get caught up in all the things that we're afraid of, the things that are worrying us, that we forget to laugh. And it is very true, laughter is the best medicine. It's okay to take that time to smile, to laugh. It's great to see your faces tonight, because as I read those things, I saw many smiles or laughter. And when you see other people smiling, the smiles are contagious. You're going to smile, they're going to smile. So telling jokes is really helpful right now. If you have kids or you're trying to connect with your grandkids, asking them to come to your FaceTime call with some jokes for you is such a great way for them to connect, because it gives younger kids things to be able to talk about or share with their grandparents. They're going to get such a kick out of making you laugh. And no matter what they say, you're going to find it really funny because you're just having a good time. So having kids tell you jokes, telling jokes to other people, sharing funny memes in family group texts or friend group texts can be helpful. Sending funny pictures or silly thoughts for pictures, and watching comedy type things, whether you're watching actual stand-up comedy routines that are on Netflix, comedy movies, or the comedy late shows, but something that's going to make you laugh and bring some lightness to what's going on, as just another way to slow down and take care of yourself. But this is called 9 mental health activities to do with your children. And what I loved in this one is it's really not just things to do with your children, it's great for adults too. And a bunch of the things that we've been talking about. There we go. So it talks about worry time, which is a great cognitive behavioral strategy that we often use in managing worries that we might have. Instead of trying to avoid worries, because that's impossible, we can't just tell ourselves don't worry at all. But sometimes if we designate specific worry time, that helps us to put a boundary around the worry time, which can keep it from spilling over into our entire day. So it's okay to have worry time. And it's a great strategy for kids and for adults to just designate time to even say, all right, from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock is my worry time. That's the time we're going to sit, we're going to talk about the things that we're afraid of, we're going to write it down. And if other times during the day, the worries come up, you can tell yourself, that's for worry time, that's for worry time. So you keep trying to put it aside into that time, but you're giving yourself space and boundaries to define it. Thought challenging is another one we've talked about, to challenge thoughts where you start to get very black and white, or filtering out all the negative and filtering out all the positive and only focusing on the negative, or just focusing on that all or nothing or catastrophic ending. So really try to challenge it with more realistic thoughts, positive imagery, talking about feelings. So these are a lot of the things that we've been talking about as really helpful strategies, but I thought this was a great summary and a great visual to keep of other ways that you can take care of yourself. And then I wanted to get to some of the questions that Lisa sent me that came in advance, and then open it up to things that you may wish to share about what you've been experiencing or any other questions that come up. So one of the questions is really dealing with the impact of the social distancing that we're all really feeling. And I think the longer this continues, the more we're feeling that effect of being apart from our loved ones and not having the physical contact. So this question says, how can I deal with the lack of physical contact at this time? It makes me feel disconnected. I take comfort in a hug, and it's how I show love. It's one of the hardest things that we're struggling with, and it's hard to give more of an answer to that because there is no easy fix to it. So first and foremost, it's validating this is really, really hard. And when your love language is physical contact and that hug or the hand holding, it's really, really hard when we don't have that. And we feel disconnected from the people that we care about and want to be closer to. So just validating that is the most important thing that we can do. Also reminding yourself that this is time limited. It may not feel that way right now because this is feeling like weeks and we don't know how many more weeks this will go on, but this will eventually come to an end and we will be able to have that physical contact with our loved ones. So reminding yourself that it will come soon and I will get there and I'll get lots of extra hugs in and I'll store my bank of hugs and snuggles and whatever else you might need. It's also important to remind yourself that you're missing it so much because you're such a loving person. And we forget that part sometimes. We miss the hugs and the snuggles and the physical contact because we want to love, we want to be loved, we want to feel that human connection to people that are important to us. So reminding yourself that we miss those things because we have such strong qualities in us to want to give and receive love. The option B idea that we've talked about in lots of situations is another great reminder with the social distancing that when option A is not available, what's the next best thing? Option A is the hug and the physical contact. If you can't have that right now with your loved ones, what's the next best thing that you can have? Right now, the next best thing may be kind of what we're doing now, having those Zoom phone calls with your loved ones, FaceTime, getting those joke contests, doing dance parties with your grandkids, your kids, other family members. Have the other people put on a show for you. I had one client whose grandson is a performer, like have him perform for you on the phone, bring a smile. You can't see that in person. What can you do to bring a little bit more of that to you? I also wanted to read to you a description from one article I read on this. I follow a site called Grown and Flown, which is dealing a lot with separation and college students and parenting older students. And this was about a young adult son who was trying to provide comfort to his mother because they weren't living in the same residence, and she was expressing that the missing of the hug. And he said to her, "Mom, I'm going to be okay. You are going to be okay. Take a deep breath. Now put your right hand on your left shoulder, put your left hand on your right shoulder and squeeze. Hold for a minute. That's my hug to you. I love you." And it was such a beautiful description, especially coming from the son to his mother. But we can do that with people we love and take it an extra step. When we say a virtual hug, we can actually kind of embrace ourselves while you're talking to someone and kind of feel a little bit more of that physical feeling you might be missing. And when I read that description, it reminded me of two really great children's books. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but one is called The Kissing Hand and one is called The Invisible String. Both are excellent books and deal a lot with separation and loss and missing people who are important to us. So with The Kissing Hand, the mom raccoon or bear, whatever she is, kisses her child's hand before he leaves for school and reminds him that even though I'm not with you, every time you miss me, just feel your hand, and that's my kiss to you. And the invisible string represents that concept that we're all connected, whether we're in the same physical space or not. And it's a great way to describe it to our kids or to feel it with your family members, that I'm connected to you because I love you through this invisible string. So even if you can't see me or I can't be with you right now, we're still connected and I can still feel it. So if you want to express that with younger kids, you can even each hold a string while you're talking on the video and pretend that this string is going through the distance and connecting you. But they're just really good reminders and good stories to read to yourself to feel a little bit more of the connection. Any kind of shared experience that you can have. And it's a good way to practice other types of love language too. If you're used to more expressing yourself through hugs, can you practice putting it into words? Can you say the things that may be harder to say when you're missing someone? Even if you say something as simple as, I really just want to give you a hug right now. I miss having that hug. You're communicating the feeling and the other person is hearing that message. And it's practice using different kinds of language to communicate what we're feeling. Another question that came up that's a huge one, I think right now, is dealing with loss and dealing with loss by death. And it's really hard right now to deal with funerals and to deal with Shiva when we can't have those in-person connections. There's so much talk about death, and the rituals that we normally turn to provide us comfort in these times are not there for us in the same way right now. And that's really, really challenging. And it's challenging for you if you are dealing with your own personal loss. And it's challenging if you know someone who's grieving and you can't participate in the same way of expressing your condolences. So these are difficult experiences, and it's trying to just figure out how we can be involved and provide the support, even though it's different. So it's that option B. It's not what we want to do. It's not how we typically grieve. It's not how we typically provide support for those who are mourning. But how can we still be involved in providing some type of ritual experience now? And what can we do later when things might be different? So one thing that seems to be happening a lot are Zoom funerals, which seems like a very strange concept. But it's option B. It's the best that we can do. So sometimes people are providing funerals through Zoom or through FaceTime Live. So I would just encourage you, if it's a funeral that you would have gone to or would possibly go to, even if this feels really strange to participate in a funeral through technology, to do it, because you're providing support for someone who's grieving and maybe grieving alone. So if there's any way that you can just show up on these virtual funerals, I think you're sending a strong message that you're still there for someone that you care about in the way that you can right now. And that's the same for Shiva. I've seen many of the messages coming out from my own congregation, and I'm sure many of you have as well, for Zoom Shivas, which again may feel like a really awkward or strange or disconnected experience to participate in Shiva through Zoom. It's option B. It's the best that we can do right now. So if there's a Zoom Shiva being offered, it's can you show up? A lot of the Zoom Shivas that I've seen so far are designated hours for Shiva, where you can then show up during that time. In reading some articles about how people are handling Shiva, it seems that in some ways it could be more intimate. So the benefits are everybody gets a chance to speak if you want to, versus sometimes when you go to a Shiva house and it's busy and people are eating and talking and chatting, sometimes it's hard to even express what you want to say to the person who is grieving. So sometimes the Zoom Shivas give you a chance, like we are here today, where each person can speak and share something that's meaningful to them. It gives other people a way to connect who may live far away and wouldn't have been able to participate in Shiva. So it's a way that you might be able to show up to a Shiva that might be in a different location right now, far away, that you wouldn't have been able to participate in. If you know someone who's grieving, one important thing can be offering to host a Shiva. So if it's a close, very close contact of yours and you would have been somebody helping to host the Shiva in that person's home, if you can help organize the Zoom call so that that responsibility isn't falling on the person who's grieving. And the same idea that we typically organize food and meals for close friends and family of ours who might be grieving. It's, I think right now, asking the family who's grieving if they're comfortable having takeout food delivered, and then still figuring out ways, can you take up collections, also using technology through Venmo and other things, so people might be able to contribute money and still have meals sent to the family's home or groceries delivered, so you can alleviate some of that extra stress. I think a big one right now is being able to listen and just provide support and empathy. One of the most challenging things happening right now that's so different than anything we can even imagine is that people are dying alone in hospitals. And that's really hard and painful, that if you do know someone who is sick or someone who is in the hospital, they can't have visitors right now. And that's probably one of the most painful parts of grieving, to know that you can't be there with a loved one. There's no way to fix that for family members or loved ones of someone who may be in the hospital right now alone or may pass away alone. So I think the best thing that we can do is just listen to their story and not share our own grief stories at that time. Sometimes we want to share and relate and show people we understand. I don't think there's anything that can compare right now. And I think people just need to be heard. And that's the best gift that we can give to people we care about, is to just hear their story, not try to fix it, not try to minimize it, and just let people feel heard and know that you care. And just expressing that concern to people you care about. When it comes to the Zoom calls and other ways of expressing condolences, if you're someone who doesn't want to speak up in a group, I think that's okay too. And it may be sending messages through text, through email, through cards. If it's hard to get a card or mail because you're not leaving your home, I think it's more than okay to send sympathy cards or sympathy messages through email right now, or through text messages, and to let people know that it may be hard for you to participate in a Zoom Shiva, but you'd be happy to set a FaceTime whenever they're comfortable. And one last thought that I would share is that maybe another idea would be to look for celebrations of life, or maybe larger scale unveiling ceremonies where we may be able to come together as a group and collectively grieve together when it's safe to do so. So to know that those are things that may be possibilities in the future. I'm not sure if anyone would like to share anything that relates to Shiva or grieving right now, or anything that they've experienced during this time.
This is not an advertisement. This is just purely a point of information that sadly Federation is sending out a lot of tributes. So a tribute is, again, I want to emphasize, I'm not pushing it and advertising it, but I'm just throwing it out there as another tool. If you're interested, that for $18, you send a tribute to somebody, and sadly, we're getting a lot of tribute requests these last couple of weeks. And it's just a way to let a family know, if you can't get to the post office and you don't have another way of sending a note, you can send a tribute from Federation and just let the person know that you're thinking of them.
And those are great ideas. The idea of planting a tree in Israel is always one that's, I think, well received. And that's something you can do from your own homes to send as well.
Can I go back to the first question for a moment about that lack of physical contact? So the other, or another side of that, is just the sensory experience that is so important, right? We need physical touch to thrive and for our immune system. And in the absence of hugs and whatnot, what do you think of things like taking a hot bath or a
Mhm.
hot shower or doing some exercise, something to be like in your body in a sensory way?
I think all of those are great ideas. Even the idea of a weighted blanket is something that's been growing in popularity and helping with anxiety, something that feels a little heavier or warmer. Hugging a pillow is okay. It may provide some comfort or some physical sensation. If you have any pets at home, hugging a dog or a cat or snuggling with your animals. If you are living with someone, extra hugs with that person, even if you can't get hugs with somebody else. Stuffed animals, any of those sensory things are great ideas. Baths, scents, like lavender scents can be very calming. So other types of scents that you may feel are relaxing to you may also give you a positive sensory experience. So yeah, all those things can be helpful. It may sound silly to hug a pillow, but I think it does give you that sensory feel of just holding something and giving you that motion of that snuggling can feel good right now. And sometimes doing that while you're on the phone with the person you want to hug and sort of jointly having that experience and having this pretend hug while you're both hugging something.
One of the other things is, now I don't do this, but I did it when I was a little boy, and that's either crocheting or knitting. Those kinds of physical activities with your hands, that is actually creating something, is a very positive mental experience.
That's very true. And there's my mom up there who's actually crocheting while she's on the phone and used to bring her crocheting and knitting needles to giant football games. She's never without it. So, so those are great strategies.
Yeah, our federation had a former president, and she would run the meeting sitting there while she was, I think she was knitting, not crocheting. She was still knitting, and she went and she heard everything that was happening. She knew who should be called on next, but she just sat there, and it was great because I'm sure it kept her very relaxed to run the meeting.
Yes, and when I used to work at the Renfrew Center, it's an eating disorder treatment facility, but they teach all the women there knitting and crocheting. Women of all ages come out knitting scarves and hats for just what you're saying. It's a very soothing movement. It's a repetitive movement. It can be very calming. Having your hands involved in something that's using anything that you can manipulate, clay, a stress ball, Play-Doh, bouncing a ball, all of those things can relieve some of the stress that you might be feeling and some of those worries.
The other thing, if I can say, if you know someone, either a loved one or a friend or acquaintance who's in an assisted living facility or a rehab center or a hospital, make sure you reach out to them. That phone call is sometimes it's a hug for them. It's a hug for them. It's a hug for them. And especially since those people who have close relatives or spouses who are not allowed right now to go into a nursing home or a rehab facility or a hospital, those kinds of daily phone contacts are very, very important. By the way, I think it's important for us who are out here, as well as those persons who are confined to some sort of a facility.
Those are great ideas. If you can call someone, sometimes having kids just call people just to talk to them can be great ideas, even if they don't have such a close connection. I know some schools have been having kids write letters to just send to people who might be in long-term care facilities to just give them something to brighten their day. And sometimes if they don't have the technology for FaceTime, the staff have been using their own phones and letting people FaceTime friends or loved ones so that they get a little bit of that visual contact. So those are great ideas for contacting people.
Kerri, at your first session, you talked about having control because we're so out of control, having control, doing things to feel in control. And I just want to pass on, I saw in the Time magazine a do-it-yourself mask that you make from a t-shirt. All you need are a pair of scissors. You do not have to know how to sew a single stitch. So it's just cutting a t-shirt in a certain way, and you end up with strings and you tie it around your face. And you feel like you've done something and you have some control over what you have to do. and anybody can make it.
Those are
And we
great
have
ideas.
And we have a sample.
Well, let's see it.
Oh, okay, just a second.
My daughter even learned from her endless TikTok videos, but she made me a mask using a bandana and hair ties. She just watched a video, she tied it up, and there we go. I had a mask to wear.
Correct.
Lots of
They said,
creative.
actually, this is an old Federation t-shirt that I used.
Oh, great idea.
So it's so that you take the bottom of the t-shirt and you cut it off. And then you take a piece out of one end and open it up, and you have 2 ties. And then you fold it around. You add 2 loops over here, or you can make another set of strings. I made 2 loops. That was my invention because they only had it for single. And you put it around and you tie it closed. You put the thread in here. I can put it on Justin and show you.
I look better this way.
That's awesome.
There it is. And all it took was, I sew, but I thought this was just magnificent. You get a mask with just a pair of scissors and an old t-shirt.
That's great. And making your own masks, helping out the community. There's a woman in our community who's making headbands with buttons for the hospital staff, for nurses and doctors and other workers in healthcare to wear, because there have been a lot of reports that the healthcare workers are getting sores on their ears from wearing the masks every day.
Right.
So I volunteered today to help out to sew buttons. I haven't done much sewing, but I can sew. So they're sewing buttons onto headbands and buttons on just to these elastic headbands and buttons onto elastic strips for some of the male doctors. And they're just wearing it around their head, a soft headbands with buttons, so nothing has to go on their ears. So I think there's simple ways.
But they're perfect for yourself.
Yeah, it's great. So ways that you could make things for yourself, different crafts, ways that you might feel like you're helping out in the community might help you to feel good. That was another question that came up in our first session of how it feels to help other people. And that's helping us to feel better. Being here at this group feels good to me. I'm giving something back in a way that I can, so I feel like I'm doing a part to help. Helping with the masks is another part that I feel that I can do, and try to teach my kids to sew a little bit so they're doing something too that's valuable. Some of the high school students have been doing it, and they're using service credits to just do this sewing. So I think any ways that you can do projects for yourself, arts and crafts are so soothing right now. Any type of painting, knitting, crocheting, making a craft, learning to do something from a magazine, a video, all of those things can be very relaxing and get a little bit of that sensory experience like you were talking about, Lisa.
Because if I walk into a bank with the black mask on, they'll think I'm going to try to rob the place. So, so we keep it white. We keep it white.
That's a good idea. Another question was in dealing with politics, which is always a challenging one, but it was just, I don't remember the specific wording, but how to deal with situation when you're getting very angry or upset because of all the social media posts or comments if you're not agreeing with somebody else politically, and that can get very upsetting right now. And I think this is just such a hot topic right now, and there are just very strong viewpoints, and that can lead to a lot of painful feelings. I think the only way to really manage some of the difficult feelings that may come out with the political arguments is to take yourself out of it. I always tell clients when you're dealing with conflict that it takes 2 people to be in it, or competition. You can take yourself out. You don't have to be involved in the conflict or the arguments if you don't want to. So if any of the political stuff is causing you distress, as much as you can, take yourself out of it. Don't read any political posts that can be triggering for you. The worst thing to read are comments that people post under it, because that people are just posting all kinds of things. Since people are home more right now, they're more likely to be on social media and get involved in a lot of the political debates. So if those things get triggering for you, it's trying to take yourself out of that content. It's also okay right now to unfollow friends on Facebook who are posting things that are triggering to you. And there's a difference between unfollowing and ending a Facebook friend. When you unfollow someone, you're just not getting their feed coming up in your own news feed. You can still be Facebook friends. So if you choose to go to their page and look at their content, if you just want to see their photos and you can scroll through, you can do that. But you're not getting feed coming through your news feed that might be upsetting or triggering to you. So that's something to think about right now. I know some people in my Facebook friend world who have very strong political posts and they're putting stuff out there all the time, and I might not want to see it if I disagree with it, and that's okay. And the other big thing to remind yourself of is if politics come in the way of other friendships or relationships, it's also to take yourself out of that. You don't have to have those conversations. You can tell people that we can love each other and we can respect each other, but we don't have to have political discussions right now. And that can help you when you have strong differences to just try not to even engage that if that becomes upsetting. There's so much going on right now with the daily press conferences from the different government officials, and they're coming from different political parties, and that might get triggering for you, or if you're seeing comments about those press conferences coming up. So watch what you feel like you need to get the information that you need. But the best way to handle it is really to take yourself out of the conflict or take yourself out of reading any of the comments. So it's at least minimizing some of that stress for you.
I could add something to that.
Sure.
I am first now, I lost my husband 6 years ago to ALS, and we were business partners and, you know, married for many years. So I've had to, over these years, learn how to re-establish a life for myself in my own home that we've been living with, because I did not feel familiar with this house at all after that. I've learned how to control my time, manage my time, saying no, opening up only positive experiences.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, where you are very cautious about what you listen to. First of all, if you're interested in learning as opposed to politicking, there's an awful lot out there to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a never-ending task. So I'm very quick at flipping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very quick at saying no. No, I don't want to do anything to myself. And I'm always very busy because we relocated my business into my home too. No, I don't feel like doing it. And the world did not fall apart and the roof did not fall down. But this is a time that I see neighbors saying hello when they don't know each other, you know, just in walking. Helping each other out, saying, is there something I can get for you? Or texts and messages, you know, do you need shopping? These things are very simple, but they mean everything.
Mm-hmm.
And to that point of the hug, yes, I do hug my pillow a great deal, and I didn't stop to think about why I hug my pillow, but I love my bed.
Mm-hmm. And it gives you that comfort, and that's okay.
It's true.
It's a very healthy way to take care of yourself.
It's true.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you're right. It's that sense of community that's also coming out in other ways. How are different people coming together? What feels different in your community? I have seen many people walking around my neighborhood that I haven't seen before, I haven't seen in a long time. And people are waving hello from across the street, but you're having those contacts. So thinking sometimes of what are those silver linings? Where are we coming together as a community? How can we help each other? Where can we turn to for some of those positive connections is really valuable. Sound like a good plan? Okay, we're gonna move on to our guided imagery. Let me just get that script ready. So why don't we get into a comfortable position? And you can just sit back and gently close your eyes as we get ready for tonight's journey. So you're going to listen to the sound of my voice. And if you become distracted at any time, just wriggle your toes, take a deep breath in and out, and join us back on the journey wherever we might be at that moment. So we're going to start out by focusing on our breath. It's a way to calm our bodies and begin our relaxation. So for a few moments, allow yourself to take several nice, long, deep breaths, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Breathing in and out, in and out, focusing on how your body feels at this moment. As you inhale, feel the air filling your body, and as you exhale, feel your body release worries, tension, and stress. Feel the air fill your body, and feel your body release all of the energy that no longer serves you. Breathe deeply into your diaphragm, drawing air fully into your lungs, and release the air with a whooshing sound. Breathing in again, and breathe out. Draw a deep breath in and out, in and out, becoming more and more relaxed with each breath. Feel your body giving up all the tension, becoming relaxed, calm, and peaceful. Take a deep breath in and hold it for a moment. And as you exhale, feel all of the worries of the day being released, and a sensation of relaxation beginning to fill your body. It enters at the top of your head and spreads down over your face, neck, and shoulders. This relaxing feeling expands along your back, down your legs, and out through your feet. It's as if relaxation is a constant flow of soothing energy, entering from your head and passing out through your toes. Continue to breathe softly as we go on a special journey in our minds. Imagine you are deep in the woods, enjoying a beautiful, relaxing weekend in a log cabin at the base of a lush green mountain. Picture the calming view from the front porch. You are on vacation, and you are leaving all of your worldly cares and concerns behind you. The smell of the pine trees in the warm morning sun is pleasant as you sit in your comfortable rocking chair on the front porch, enjoying the peace and serenity that surrounds you. Gently rocking back and forth in your chair. Fog gently rolls off the mountainside as the sun evaporates the morning dew. Birds are singing, and their song seems to call you into the forest. You slowly rise from your chair and walk down the 3 steps that lead to the ground below. There is a path near the cabin that leads into a dense part of the forest. The trees are so thick that you can't see very far down the path. As you enter the path, a cool, moist breeze gently caresses your face, bringing with it a sweet-smelling fragrance. The path meanders along through the woods, curving around giant old trees with flowering vines stringing through them, and forming a beautiful canopy above you that stretches in every direction. You walk further through the woods, and in the distance, you can hear the sound of rushing water. You leave the path and walk in the direction of the water. As you near the water, the canopy of the forest opens up to reveal a beautiful, soft blue sky, not a cloud in sight. In this opening, a creek cascades off the edge of a cliff and gently falls into a clear pool surrounded by rocks. The water flows away into the forest, nourishing all that live within it. There is an opening in the cliff behind the waterfalls. The morning sun is feeling very warm, so you decide to find relief in the cool shelter of the rock. Behind the water, the air is very cool and moist. It soothes your skin from the heat of the sun. Looking through the water, you can see all the colors of the rainbow, performing an elegant dance as the sun's light reflects off the water. Even the trees and rocks on the other side seem to be melting into various shapes and colors as the water glides through the air. You reach out your hand to touch the water and find it to be a pleasant temperature. Without thinking, you take a few steps forward and stand inside the water as it falls around you to the earth. You take a drink of the falling water and it tastes clean and pure, refreshing after your walk through the forest. You continue to look around at the glorious view, enjoying every moment, overcome by feelings of peace and serenity. As you step out of the water and back into the warm sun, you notice a flower-covered bush with colorful, beautiful butterflies surrounding it. This truly is a magnificent place. It's now time to head back to the cabin. So you walk back in the direction of the path, back into the cool forest. Walking further, you can see the entrance to the forest next to the cabin. You leave the woods and slowly walk up the steps to the porch, sitting once more where you began the day, in the comfortable rocking chair. But now you have a feeling of peace and calm. You gently rock back and forth, smiling with this sense of peace and calm. Remind yourself that you can create these feelings of peace and calm on your own. Remember that you may scan your body during your day, and you may discover any tension, worries, or stress that you are holding. And then you can inhale peace and calm, and exhale worries and tension. As you breathe in, you can say to yourself, I am choosing peace and calm. It is now time to come back into the present space. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Take another deep breath in and let it out. Become conscious of your breath and notice how calm, peaceful, and relaxed you are feeling. Take one more deep breath in and out. Wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers, and when you feel ready, slowly open your eyes and welcome back into the present space. Give you a moment to readjust. Would anyone like to share how that felt for them?
I will if no one else will. It was extremely calming. And I had mentioned to Cattell after we had a session like this before that I had a heart attack a long time ago, over 32 years ago. And this was a method that was given to me by a psychologist that I thought was so great, because I would sit in my chair in the living room, do this exercise, and it would seem to me to be seconds, and yet I was there for a half hour. And it really, really felt relieving, as did this.
Good, good, I'm glad.
I do this every beautiful morning that there is. That gets me out of my bed. I open my bathroom window. I smell the air. I say I need to bring my plants out because I bought beautiful flowers before this, just for the holiday, which was very difficult because it's almost like an opposite of a funeral, except you never celebrate holidays alone. And I found it particularly difficult this year. The Zoom was wonderful and becoming a bit of a habit. But Facebook, of course, FaceTime and all that has been going on, thank goodness, with my grandkids on a regular basis. But the point is, I have learned to love my environment and to make it part of who I am. And I've gone through a lot of effort to make it mine, but this out of doors is a beautiful, joyful thing. And I thank God when I have those beautiful days to go out and just look around and watch and listen. And it starts, I don't really care what I do for the rest of the day. And I have some very pressing things that I have to do. But rather than panic, which I did for a very long time, I put it in a place where I can be in charge of it.
That's great. It's a great way to start your day and hold on to that. That's great.
I'll just share a reaction to what we just did, and then I'll just close up for the evening. It reminds me, and speaking of humor, there's a movie, if you can search on your TV and find it, it's called What About Bob? And it's an old Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss film. And it's hysterically funny, but it's about somebody who experiences a lot of anxiety, and he takes a vacation from his troubles. And it reminded me when we were doing that guided visualization, like taking a vacation from our troubles. And even though it's the joke of the movie, there's a lot of merit to that. And I feel like we just experienced it.
Good. Yeah, I love that term, taking a vacation from our trouble. If we need to take those breaks, we can't be immersed in this 24/7. That's not the way to get through it in a healthy way. It's just finding that balance. There's been talk about boundaries, about balance, about what's in our control, and just how to keep having compassion for ourselves as well as others to just get through it day by day. There are lots of resources out there. I do have a weekly guided imagery group. If you like this kind of group, we're doing different exercises each week, and Lisa could put those resources together. But there are lots of great ways to just keep taking care of yourself. So again, keep validating your feelings. Whatever you're feeling is perfectly normal. Take care of yourselves and just show yourselves compassion, and we will get through this. We will get through it together. So thank you for being a part of this with me and for sharing your comments and your experiences and your questions. I appreciate all of your input.
Thank you,
How
Kerri.
can people reach you if they'd like to be part of your ongoing groups? What's the best way for people to reach you?
You can reach me through text or through email. There's a link on my Facebook page, and there's a link on the website to join the groups. We're having some free virtual groups Every Wednesday morning at 11 is a guided imagery group. And we really just go through one of these scripts. It's about 11 to 11:30 for that. So the best way is either through the Facebook page has a link or through the website for oceanwaveswellness.com.
You know what I'll do? I will, in a follow-up email to everybody, I'll put Kerri's website and contact info up. And also, if you'd like, and I'll also put up some of those visuals, those memes that you shared with us earlier in the session tonight. And if anybody would like to share some of the resources and tools that you talked about tonight, from the tutorial on making the masks to any of your favorite guided imagery, guided visualizations, or anything of that sort, I think maybe the best way is when I send the email out of tonight's recording, feel free to send those things back to me, and then I'll share them with the group. And also remember that Federation has a resource and information update page where we're posting a lot of links about resources to get through this period, from very sort of hard resources through Jewish Family and Children's Service and Jewish Family Service in both Monmouth and Middlesex, to just how to pass some time, fun links and activities for people of all ages, for kids, links to Jewish life services and whatnot. So I encourage you to go on the short way to get to that page is jewishlifeonline.org. And I encourage you to go there and check it. We're updating it often, or feel free to reach out to me anytime at all. And just know that Federation is here. We're looking to understand what the needs of the community are. So if you have input on that front, please don't hesitate to let me know. And we are, as always, organizing a community response to meet those needs. And so any way that you'd like to get involved, we welcome your participation, your thoughts, and your friendship. And I thank you for sharing of yourselves in friendship and in communal support through this series. It's just been very meaningful for me personally, and so I'm very grateful to all of you.
Thank you, Lisa. And this was good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Everybody, and be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.